Hello, and welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg. My guest today is one of my closest friends. She is a woman that I've known for about a decade, maybe more. She's a poet, she's a director, she's an entrepreneur, she's a public speaker. She is a wild and wise, feral, feminine, firecracker, truth teller, spitting, thrashing, unbelievably great human. And I adore her so much. She has lived in my house for a while. We talk about that on the podcast. And basically, Janne is doing a new program, and it's online, and it's amazing. And I was a teacher for it years ago. I'm going to be a teacher for it again, but I think that's confidential. Anyway, she hit me up and said, "Hey, do you want to do an Instagram live to help me talk about this program?" And I said, "No way. I don't. I don't like Instagram lives, but I like you. So do you want to just come on and do a podcast and we can talk about all kinds of things and we can mention that you have this program available. And if people like you, then they can sign up to join you." And she was into that. So basically in this conversation, we ramble all over the place. We are two old friends catching up, swapping stories. At some point, Janne just goes on a freewheeling wisdom channeling rant for about 10 minutes. I think I refer to it as a TED Talk. It's so good. It's one of those moments when I'm hosting a podcast where I forget that I'm hosting a podcast and kind of just wish I had a bowl of chips or bag of popcorn to watch the miraculous unfold and unfurl. Anyway, we go all over the place. But the crux of it, the umbrella under which all of this conversation lies, is truth. And what does it mean to live a life in truth? Truth. What does it mean to meet yourself in truth? And this is directly relatable to the work that Janne does. She's really good at this stuff. And even after we finished recording, we were just catching up for a minute. And she told me, "Hey, Jer, we need to chat. I need to talk to you." And she basically wants to crack the whip and kick my ass in a few things that I've been procrastinating or avoiding on. So this woman walks her walk. She obviously, duh, she walks her talk also. I love her. I respect her. I trust her. I really highly encourage you to check her program out. I've included a link in the show notes. If you're listening right now, just pause this, click the link, apply. Here's the gist. It's a free, live, real-time, you pay no money for this, 10-day experience of which Janne is teaching 5 or 6, I think it's 6, 2-hour sessions, 4 hours of which are just live coaching, Q&A. You get to ask her questions directly. There's a curriculum, there's storytelling, there's Janne being Janne. It's hot seat coaching, and it is designed to take you, the participant, right to the edge of your truth. And if you don't know what that is, then you definitely need to check this program out. I really can't speak highly enough of Janne and her work. We've had countless memories made together. We've taught workshops together. I visited and stayed with her moms for a time. I've walked her dog. Anyway, Janne Robinson and I really have a good conversation in this one. She's teaching a workshop. Check it out. Follow her on Instagram. Buy her books. Get in her space. Get in her world. I adore her tremendously. And I know that you're going to love this conversation that I had with her. So that's a long way of saying, please enjoy this conversation with Janne Robinson. Janne Robinson.
So really happy to be here. Really happy to be there.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
How's my room?
So Janne just 20 seconds in lays on an inside joke that none of you will get listening. But Janne, I could explain it. That was a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago. Janne came to visit for 3 days, 4 days. ended up staying 3 weeks, maybe, like kept extending, named our guest bedroom the Yana wing of the house, and now is offended when we have other guests that stay there. She wants approval for allowing them to visit. And okay, so Yana Robinson
This
is
one really important part of that. When we were first talking about how long I was going to come for 3 days, we were both kind of like, yeah, like that's kind of the most amount of time you want to spend with someone. Like after 3 days, like, someone can leave. And we had that conversation. And then I think 2 weeks in, because there was fires in Tofino, the highway was closed, everybody. That's where I had a place rented, but there was the highway was closed. And then I remember you looking at me being like, it's actually kind of nice having you here. Like, I'm surprised that we're not sick of each other right now. Yeah.
yeah. I've heard that described as like a fish in the refrigerator or something, where 3 days it starts to go bad. You need to sort of clean things out. And I was actually very impressed because my partner Kendra Dachi was open arms, open heart, loving it, and she's very sensitive to energy and people and whatnot. And the two of you were just in cahoots, and it seemed like every 2 days there was another extension and another extension. And I was like, do we need to start charging this chick rent? Like, how does she live here now? You
We talked about being roommates. I almost moved to Squamish. Kendra big leaped her prices while I was there too. That was one of the things I remember. Do you remember? We had some
yeah,
good talks. That was a great time. I
that
love
was a
you.
great time.
I love that.
I love you too. Uh, okay, Jesus. Uh, this is a great episode. Similar to Amy Young's last episode, where I told the audience, "Hey, don't worry, it gets a lot better. This is going to be a really powerful conversation. Hang in there, listener. Hang in there." Okay, Jan Robinson.
Mhm.
For those listening that might not know who you are, what you do, how do you describe yourself? What's your deal? Just very briefly. I know
Yeah.
you're, or I could try and do it for you, but you go ahead.
Yeah. I'm a lot. I mean, everyone's so serious. The thing about biographies is like you're all listening, being like, has this woman done enough stuff that we respect what she's done? Like, yeah, you should. I've done a lot of things, but yeah, I could tell you some stuff I've done. So I'm Canadian. And I started writing poetry when I was in grade 3. So I've been very clear for a long time that I love writing. Me and Jer are both poets. I have 2 books of poetry that I published, and started my career as a writer for Elephant Journal and Thought Catalog, and then shifted into the personal development coaching space. I'm a total feminist. I direct films. I do purpose work. I've done over 200 purpose sessions one on one with people because I believe that no one gets out of bed for money. I think that we need money, but we also, more than anything, are really hungry for meaning. And the core elements of my work are belonging and meaning. And Ethan Hawke has this quote about how, as human beings, to thrive, we need to express ourselves. But I believe to express yourself or your purpose or your gifts, you first have to know who you are. And so a core part of my work has been around authentic belonging. And I have done that through going first and sharing all of the truth and the things and the 70K of debt. And I just had an abortion and I just dated another unavailable man out loud as a writer for my whole career, pretty much. And I have a program, Your Truth is Your Medicine, that 1,000 people have been through, which is like, yeah, it's a big core piece of my work. But yeah, you would call me a poet, an author, a speaker, a coach. If you're talking about what I do, how I create impact in the world and contribute is through truth and creating places where people can create belonging in who they actually are and take off their masks. And the whole reason that really lights me up is I think that we only have connection when we are authentic in our relationships. And I think that we only have meaning when we are able to show up in the world and give our gifts and be seen for that thing inside of us that really gives us energy and makes us feel alive. So remember we did spoken word?
The hell kind of transition was that?
was just remembering.
You're
And
like, here's four to 6 minutes of the most eloquent description of my life's work. Oh, hey, shiny object,
I'm
squirrel. Do you remember we
serious.
did that? You remember we did that thing?
We gotta be so serious. We just did the serious part. But yeah, then me and Jer have, we both published our first books with Thought Catalog. We did a spoken word poetry workshop in New York together. And we met through the gram, and have been, yeah, been friends for, feels like it's been over a decade that I've known and followed and seen all your stuff. Would you agree? I think.
Yeah, I remember. So I was a PhD student in my former life working on the Great Barrier Reef, and I remember having a call with you on the campus. And I remember the picnic table I was sitting at, just chatting about my relationship, and you were sort of interrogating me with various penetrating questions. I was like, dang, this chick is lighting me up right now. Like, this is a lot. Um, and I also remember uh, where I was in my like rental house when you messaged me that you were so excited that you get to go back to the butterfly sanctuary and clean up caterpillar poop. And I remember being really excited for you that that was like a big deal. And now you're leading these personal development seminars for thousands of people and talking to corporations about their culture and directing films and whatnot. It's really cool to have had a front row seat to all of that.
Mm.
And then yeah, I remember also like just the last piece was in real life. I went and stayed with you down in San Diego, and my sister was going down there also, and she dropped me off in front of your house and said, like, who are you meeting right now? Like she was concerned and sort of looking out for my safety. You've never met this woman, but you're gonna stay at her place tonight, and what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine. I know her from Instagram. It's fine. She's great. Um, yeah, and now fast friends.
Mm-hmm. And I
That
also
was
joined.
so long ago.
That was 8 or 9. I think it was 8 years, like when we actually met in person. Because I was in Encinitas. I was living in I was subletting Peter Levine's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also told you should probably told you in that one conversation that you should like quit your degree. Of like, I was like, you should just
Yeah.
quit all of that.
Yeah. You were really trying to get me to walk away from academia for a couple years. Like, I
Well,
don't need a degree. My results are my qualifications.
yeah.
My impact is my credential. You think people hire me because I have a piece of paper? And you were very vigilant about that. I was like, but Yana, at least,
I'm glad you went through. You're a scientist now. You're a real person.
yeah, super dork. Okay, we, Jesus, this is fun, but I'm just conscious that I don't know if the listener just wants us reminiscing about our friendship. So, your new program, your ongoing program, it's going again. You're doing a free 10-day experience on the internet. You're teaching 6 workshops, if I remember right, all
Mhm.
about truth and blocks and beliefs, and you're doing live coaching. And what's the point, Yana? Why are people like attending this thing?
Yeah. So we shared that I have a 1 year program called Your Truth is Your Medicine. And I realized after I made that 1 year program that which is around, can we create belonging in who we are? Can we look under every rock of our life, our marriage, our career, our friendships, our family relationships, our relationship with ourselves, before we can look under there at all of the ways we could step into and bring more of ourselves and our authenticity and our truth to these parts of our lives, have the sweaty, uncomfortable conversations or move or quit the job. That looks different for everybody. And then there's a whole portion around integration of that and, courageous action and the baby steps we take sometimes. But before you do all of that, and that's important, there's this zero point 0.5 step. And I realized, oh, there's like a piece here, a zero point 0.5 that's missing, which is before you think that maybe you could change your life, there's things that you need to do first. And the very first thing is, how am I running away from the truth of who I am. And so I had a moment. I had a moment 12 years ago that I'll talk about in a minute, but I think that if the very first indicator that it may be time to change our lives, to use a little bit of truth as medicine, is how we feel. And 12 years ago, I woke up and I felt hopeless and apathetic and depressed. And that feeling was information of a truth inside of me. And the truth that was down inside of me at that time in my life was I do not like Edmonton, Alberta. I was on a Instagram live with Gay Hendricks today, and he said, I remember speaking there and flying in from Florida, and it was so cold that you had to plug your car in or else it wouldn't start. And I was like, yes. And he was like, so cold. Like, yes, that's why I had to leave. And people think it's shallow sometimes, a city that you live in. No, it's your environment. It's how you feel. If it's warm, you have to wear less clothes. You can jump out on your bike and the warmth of the water. It's not shallow to need trees or mountains or the things that sustain the activities that give you joy. And I wasn't wanting to be in Edmonton, Alberta anymore. I wasn't lit up by the minus 30 degrees Celsius winters in Canada. And I wasn't in it for like the oil and the hockey. And it wasn't the culture of Yana. It wasn't, if you saw me now, I live a block from the beach in California. I have a blush pink pastel 1975 Toyota Hilux. I barely wear clothes. I put my little Bernedoodle in my truck and my surfboard, and I get a coffee from Pipes Cafe, and he runs along the bluffs, and there's ospreys, and then I go for a surf in the water, and there's dolphins, and that is the environment that I thrive in. That is the environment that gives me joy. That is the environment that gives me the energy that you're feeling in this conversation that I have to give to the world. And so it may seem shallow, but I don't think it's shallow to want to live in a different city. So I want to name that. And secondly, my job was the other piece. I was selling condos and bartending and serving. And I would wake up and ask people if they wanted a coffee refill. And I think that some people's genius zone is hospitality. I have met them. I know them. For me, that's not how I wanted to give my gifts. I am a poet. I am a writer. I am somebody who wants to ask somebody what gives their life meaning, color, joy. What have been the most meaningful moments in their entire career so I can help pin the dot of what their purpose is and to put their business on the tracks. Those are the questions and conversations I wanted to be having. And I wasn't. And I wasn't using my gifts. And I felt this frustrated artist inside, and I felt sad. And I remember waking up and having this feeling in my chest. And there was truth underneath that I had to hear and that I eventually heard. But we all have ways that we, in the beginning, avoid, distract, and numb the feeling which you need to feel to have the information of your truth. And so in Meet Yourself in Truth, this free 10-day experience that I am doing June 2nd to 12th, we start with a session around vices and numbing, because if you have information inside of your body about your marriage, you have to stop coming home from work and pouring 5 glasses of wine so that you numb all of the feeling in your body and opt out of the conversation with your partner that may actually bring you the connection that you need that you're avoiding by drinking wine. So we first have to look at, how am I avoiding and numbing? Also for me, travel was a huge one. I was like, I'm going to get on a plane and be a different person. And then I would come home and I'd be like, ah, shit, it's all still here. Still have to do the things. Guess I will turn on Netflix, because that was another one for me. I guess I'll just watch TV and just bury my head in a different story because I don't want to live my own. So we have to look at our vices. And I created this little prerequisite because before I quit my jobs, changed my life, I had to stop traveling as escapism. I had to stop avoiding the feeling inside of me and thinking that somebody was miraculously going to come in and reach into my life and make a change or a choice for me. Alcohol wasn't one of the ways that I avoided. Travel, television, sleep. I would sometimes go back to sleep to avoid being awake, because being awake meant feeling how crappy I felt in my life. Ugh. And we don't think about sleep sometimes, I think. And so vices are symptoms in our life of something being off. And when we're turning to them, we are using something to put a big band-aid on something that we feel. So the very first 2-hour session I do, and it's 3 2-hour teaching sessions and then 2 hot seat coaching days. I think session 6 is actually like a prize testimonial thing that we do. So there's definitely 10 hours of learning. And the first one is, what are the ways that we are avoiding feeling the truth inside? Because people ask me sometimes, you're a truth coach, you've worked with thousands of people. So abstract, like, feel your truth. What does that even mean? And so I'd like to break it down into 2 things. Number one, there's a feeling, which is the first step. And for some of us who've never paid rent and we don't maybe have access to our feelings because we're very top up and in our heads, if you want to get down into your body, well, yeah, you have to stop numbing the feelings that are there. And I know that's really challenging. And there's really great somatic therapies like somatic experiencing by Peter Levine, and there's adult attachment repair model and different modalities out there that will work with not just talking but your body. And I've done a lot of that work. Neuroemotional technique is incredible as well. But there are ways to access feeling in your body. So if you're also listening to this going, Yana, I don't even have feelings inside, I just feel numb, I would say you might need to connect with this. We have 4 bodies. We have a mental, emotional, physical, and a spiritual body. And a lot of us are very intellectual based, especially in Canada. It's a very academia. We're celebrated for our intellect, but there is a whole wisdom and an intelligence to the body that is really important to pay attention to. And so some of you are like, I don't need to feel more. And some of you are like, I could use some feeling. So you have to look at the ways that you avoid and numb. And I also want to name what I feel is true, which is I don't think that the systems in the US and Canada ask enough questions for people before they put them on an antidepressant sometimes. I also think we come in feeling sadness and there's not enough questions around alignment and honesty. And some of these pieces I think need to happen. And to say like, hey, have you tried truth? Have you tried you feel disconnected and sad because you've been married to somebody for 10 years and you haven't had a real conversation in 5. Before you get on an antidepressant, which, the pharmaceutical industry is really happy to write you one. I'm not saying that. I think I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I think there are times where there are people who would not still be alive because of those things. But what I'm trying to say is, like, have we tried being honest with ourselves? And have we tried making changes and choices? And we're really failed in that. That's not something that we're set up with. And Louise Hay talks about how she believes that if you have an emotional environment of feeling trapped, so many of us get in a job and we're like, well, this is the job. The train is on the tracks. Like, whoop, I'm in the job, or I'm married, I said the vows. And it feels like this is it. And when we feel trapped in something that is no longer aligned, Louise Hay says that it can start to feel like depression in the body. When we don't feel like there's the power of choice, we start to feel trapped. And so I think it's really important, if there is feelings of hopelessness or depression or sadness, to go, have I tried the power of choice in my life? And am I aware of the environment? Your career is an environment. Your relationship or your marriage is an environment. The house that you live in is an environment. If you have a roommate situation, that's an environment. That's a domestic environment. Your family relationships are an environment. We have this environment of our body. If we're not drinking enough water and exercising and caring for ourselves and loving us. And so you have to be aware of all of those pieces. And I the last week have been really feeling into, I really wish we talked more about truth and choice before we numb out, and there is a numbing with wine and there is a numbing with antidepressants sometimes, where then you just numb everything and you don't feel either. So I'm going on a huge Janne Robinson tangent, but session 1 is about vices and numbing. And that's because my first step was I had to stop numbing. I had to stop avoiding. I had to stop like workaholic, working so I don't have to feel that once I like if you back to back to back to back to back to back book your life with activities or work, there's no moments to stop and be. And you have to stop to be, to feel. So
Mm.
whether it's busyness, whether it is alcohol, whether it is television or social media, we have to start being aware of the ways that we're avoiding and numbing. And then the second piece is like, what am I avoiding or numbing? What's that emotion? And then what environment of my life is that coming from? And if I had the courage to really look at that, and that could be scary sometimes because leaving a marriage also means leaving a house that you built with someone. It means conversations with your kids. Like, yeah, I get it. That's worthy of avoiding. That's real scary. But what also is scary is, starting to have chest pains because you know that there is a truth there that you're not honoring, and that will show up in your physical body eventually. And so I do all of this because I went through this 12 years ago and I didn't want to wake up in my life anymore. And I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. And I thought that was the life. That was it. I didn't realize that a whole other life was waiting for me and on the menu to me. And if you would have told me right now that me and Jeremy were going to be on a podcast, and that like I got my dream speaking gig this week that's like on a stage that Brene Brown spoke on last year, and Gay Hendricks, who I love, just hosted me for an Instagram live, and that one of my books would have sold 23,000 copies, or that I'd make $300,000 to $500,000 a year as an artist. If you would have told me any of that 12 years ago, I would have said, I don't believe you. And I would have said, that's not on the menu for me because other people can do that, but I can't. And now it's also easier because you got a bunch of people on apps telling you can change your life. But 12 years ago, Instagram didn't exist, or 13 years ago. And I was the first entrepreneur in my family. No one had done it. And I just, with audacity, had to go. I can't eat, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, the shit sandwich of my life anymore. I can't do this. I can't pretend that I'm okay in these jobs. I can't pretend that I'm okay in this city that I'm living in. I am so sad and this can't be it for me. And I made real choices. A couple of days later, when I woke up and had that feeling in my body and went back to sleep, um, I had this moment, and I think we've talked about this moment, or this is one of those stories of our life that we just don't ever forget, and that constantly shows up. And it's visceral for me, like those moments where your whole body just rejects what's going on in your life, and you have no other option but to evolve. Is I was sitting at a show suite desk at 3:45 p.m. in this gray pinstripe suit from Aritzia, and I had an Americano. We used to drink Americanos, 2 creams, 2 sugars, and it was cold because I'd been at work for 3 hours and 45 minutes, and it was all curdled. And I all of a sudden had this wave of feeling nauseous. To this day, I cannot drink Americanos because it reminds me of a life that I hated. It's like when you're a kid and you get sick off of potato and leek soup. You just got to look at a leek and you can feel it in your throat. That's how I feel about Starbucks. I can't even walk near a Starbucks. Sorry, Starbucks. We are never going to have a sponsorship. But I had this moment of, Louise Hay says that vomiting is sometimes rejecting an idea or an experience. I didn't throw up, but I felt this wave of nausea. And I picked up the phone and I called my mom and I said, I'm quitting my jobs and I'm moving to BC and I'm going to pursue being a writer. And then I not just said it, which is scary to say it. For those of you that have integrity and that are probably listening to your podcast who value self-growth, the scary thing about saying something out loud is then sometimes you actually have to do it. So we don't even want to say it out loud sometimes. But I said it out loud and then I did it. I quit my jobs. I ended up living in this tiny cabin in the woods, and I moved my whole life in a little car out. And I was like, I'm going to be the man I want to date and wear plaid and learn to cut kindling and make friends with the black bears in the woods. And I I started my whole life over. And the second I started to make those choices and changes, how I felt changed because I no longer felt trapped. It was like, wow, if you just quit your job, you can have a whole new, if you move, you can have a whole new life. Um, and so I got to witness firsthand the importance of not numbing and avoiding the information and then running face first into the very vulnerable, courageous act of taking action on that truth, which is the part two of it. Um, and then I got to feel on the other side of it the healing, the freedom, the liberation, the understanding that truth gets to be my greatest medicine. When I start to feel something in my body, it's like, what is feeling true for me? Sometimes it's, wow, what I just expressed in my relationship or my needs feel dismissed. Sometimes that's the truth. Sometimes it's a little truth. Sometimes it is a bigger truth, like I need to quit this job or move. But over and over and over again, turning since that moment for me towards the truth inside of me has been what has untrapped me and what has created liberation. And this week I wrote a line that said, like, so like, have you tried telling the truth? And like, sure. Have you tried telling the truth though? And it's also wild, Jeremy, that telling the truth is rare, or that being honest, or that we even have to come on here and have a conversation about how truth is medicine. But the reality is, a lot of people in the world don't tell the truth. A lot of people, and we're not really, even consumerism is like, you're broken. You need all of these things to be okay. All of these things to be okay. You need to have the body and like no gray hairs, and then the job and the thing, and like you're just being sold, you're not okay, you're not okay, you're not okay. You need this. It's outside of you. Your power is outside of you. Do this, do this. When meanwhile, it's like all of that power, all of that, we're not broken. That's consumerism. Consumerism wants you to be in pain and then buy things because you're in pain. That's how an economy works. But we're not broken, and we need to listen to that truth. And I think that feeling inside of us above all. And then I'm pro self-growth and some of these things, but we can't outsource this very precious piece inside. And I think many of us do. And it's in listening. The phrase coming home to ourselves has been absolutely ruined in the last couple of years with the personal development world. But yeah, you got to like walk your ass back into who you are. How's that? That's the new version of coming home for Janne Robinson.
Walk your ass back into who you are.
Walk it.
Yeah, I love that. That was that was a really enjoyable TED talk that you just gave.
I've been getting on podcasts and not letting anybody ask me a question because I'm so fired up. I'll talk. Like this one woman didn't get one thing in, and then we stopped the podcast and she was like, I'm going to go write like 3 newsletters. I got to go.
Yeah, I would take a little note. Like, oh, I want to follow up on that point. And then 3 minutes later, it was a totally different subject. I'm like, well, that point's gone. But then I had a new point, and I'd write that down. So yeah, I wrote down a couple things. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Yana's just in the pocket, as they say, in the zone.
The wave, the barrel, yes.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to share from my own personal experience that came up with that is I realized years ago, my supervisor asked me, what jobs do you want to apply for? What direction are you going to take your science career? And I just felt that nausea that you spoke about. And I just felt sick. I was like, the idea of filling out selection criteria for any job whatsoever makes me gag. Like I would rather do anything. And so then I recognized, okay, I have a decision to make here. And it was hard and it was scary. And I made the choice to go and buy a van and drive around for several months. And in that process, I recognized that the decision being made was the antidote to the uncertainty, which was causing the anxiety. So in some sense, clarity is the antidote to anxiety. And I hear that in what you've described. If once you just put a stake in the ground and you're like, I'm quitting my job, I'm moving to BC, I'm going to be a writer, fuck it, did you feel this sort of relief wash over you, or what did that feel like? Because I'm thinking of people listening that probably after listening to that have identified at least one area in their life where there's a bit of numbing going on, or a decision that feels hard and scary that needs to be made. So how did you navigate that specific part, and what did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, the second I said out loud, I'm quitting my jobs and moving to BC, and then I like took action on that. So I rented a place and I gave my notice. I started to wake up in the morning and the pain started to go away because it was, there was a knowing that I was moving in the direction that I needed to move in. And I was just in less pain. And I think that the ironic thing about vices and numbing, like, I particularly remember doing some really intense EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization repair, which is a type of trauma therapy. And it's very intense. They use it for people who go to war and like first responders and firefighters. And I was working around, I had volunteered in Guatemala at a rabies campaign and I witnessed some really intense dog attack stuff. And I remember getting off a call there and immediately ordering the biggest cheese pizza that I could find on DoorDash and pouring the largest glass of wine and being like, I'm going to cover that shit in cheese. I'm going to get a little tipsy and we just went real deep there. I need to equalize. I was in the bottom of the ocean and I needed to come up. But then what happened is when the wine wore off, I still felt the feeling. And that's the hard thing, is that with vices and numbing, it doesn't actually get rid of the pain. It just puts a big ass band-aid on it. And so, yes, when I started to actually make the changes and choices, when I woke up in this beautiful log cabin, big round logs, skylight coming through, there was a river beside me. I remember waking up one of the first nights and being like, somebody turn that freaking light off, because I'm used to the lights of the city, and realizing it was the moon streaming into this cabin. And I'd wake up and I could be naked because there was no one around, and I would go out and pee in the woods. I love a good pee in the woods. I'm a real Canadian, born in Whitehorse, total bush bitch here. And
Jesus.
and and I remember just, I would cut kindling and I would be in the woodshed and I was wearing plaid and making my coffee and, reading Charles Bukowski and walking in these massive trees that were so big and reminded me how small and beautiful my life was. And then coming home, and because I'd repressed my voice for, I don't know, 24 years, I would write and write and write and write. And I wrote 14 to 17. I was like a waterfall of writing and prose. And as that was happening, every day I woke up, I felt less and less pain because I had changed and I had taken action and I had made choices and I was using my gifts and I was giving my art. And I didn't know if I was going to make money off of it at first. I just knew I have to write. I have to be writing. I have to share it. And if you write, you're a writer. I also just want to validate that for you. And the only way you're ever going to sell 23,000 poetry books is if you actually have the courage to share the writing with somebody other than your cat. And so I had this really beautiful moment. And yes, I felt less pain. It made a change. And for some of you, maybe you can identify this in a smaller way of when you've needed to have a conversation that was a little, as Gay Hendricks says, a sweaty, uncomfortable conversation with your partner, right? And there's a truth inside. And you just feel it and you're like, don't really want to do that. And it starts to feel dense and heavy the more that you hold it. And for those of you that maybe have cheated on a partner or had an affair and you've held it and you've held it and it's just felt like this massive weight. And then the moment that you shared it, it was scary. It's scary because we could be rejected by the way, everyone, it's scary to share a truth because it literally can mean a relationship can fall apart. And that makes sense. There's a risk sometimes. There's also a reward that we can create more deeper connection by bearing the authenticity and our truth. And so the second that we have the courage to share those things, we usually feel a lightness because we've taken our insides outside. And honesty and transparency are two different things. You can be honest with yourself and not be transparent with anybody in your life. And I think I think authenticity is a two-step. It's being honest with the truth inside of us, and it's being transparent with that in our relationships. And I think we usually feel relief when we are transparent with the truth that we feel inside or the honesty of what's going on. Yes.
Raise my hand. I have a question. Can you I feel like I should participate in this conversation? Can you um, can you give an example in the real world of what that might look like to be honest or transparent or not being honest or transparent? So like being honest with yourself but not transparent with others, just to help people understand or visualize.
Yeah. And sorry for like this week, I just feel like I am in the pocket. I am okay. So I heard stories of people who I'm actually going to use a political thing. They were in a marriage with somebody who is conservative, and their partner really believed in Trump, and they didn't want to vote for Trump this time. And so I heard some stories of people going to the ballot box, and some of them voted what they didn't feel because they were so afraid of what would happen if they both told their partner or put down on paper the fact that they didn't really want to vote for him. Right? It's like that fear of like what would happen if I'm, or the other thing, they hid it, right? Like they went and they voted quietly, privately, and then lied about it to their partner and said, yeah, I voted. And meanwhile, voted for somebody else. And so that's like a practical example of I'm afraid that if my partner knows that I politically believe differently and something has changed in what we both believed at one point, because guess what? Your cells change every 7 years, and the things that you believe should change, and you probably will evolve. And part of marriage and love and relationship is it's incredibly vulnerable because you get to meet 8 or 10 iterations of somebody over the course of a long-term relationship. And you don't know if you're going to resonate with each iteration of them or you. And that's why it's kind of fun and scary to be in love. And sometimes that happens, and it can be our political views, and then having those conversations. Am I answering? This is a good example.
Yeah, it's just a practical one. And I think it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to be a big political decision like voting. It might be just to build on this. Like, hey, do you want to go to this party with me? Or hey, do you want to go to have Mexican food tonight? And you might feel a no, but say a yes
Yeah.
because you're scared of your truth at the very smallest level. And so I think highlighting a lot of this seems like quit your job, leave your marriage, etc.
Yeah, I got it. You want micros.
Yeah, but so I'm suggesting like to those listening, hey, take a magnifying glass out and perhaps look at the smallest little things that you're not being honest about. Of like, hey, would you prefer chocolate or vanilla? Uh, I don't know. What do you want? It's like, no, like, do you want chocolate or vanilla? Like start there. And I think you can build up is one practice that I've utilized with myself and clients. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And two other things about yes, like it can be a very, very small truth inside. And yeah, if I go too abstract there, I apologize for everyone.
No,
But
no, no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
yeah, but I think that yeah, truth can be very small. It could be I don't feel like having sex right now. Like sometimes I'm too tired to have sex. I choose sleep, and how many of us have been too tired to have sex and gone, I don't want my partner to feel rejected. I don't want to like for them. And then we go along with it, and then we're in it being like, and like, and they can tell and we can tell. And so, yeah, it's sometimes saying, I love you and I'm so attracted to you. And, you're the hottest thing ever. And I'm so tired and my body just needs sleep. Can we sleep? Sometimes that can be a truth. Or yeah, not wanting to, having a really full work week and needing to opt out of a social situation. And just taking care of myself today actually means like I need to have some space and time where I'm introverted. I feel overstimulated by my week, and I love your friends. I know it's important as your partner that I participate in your life, and most of the times I do. But would it be okay if I don't participate today because I really need to recharge?
Yeah. Or maybe not even asking of would it be okay, but just like, hey, I'm giving it a pass. And I know you're going to be disappointed and it's not what you want to hear. And I'm
Hmm.
sorry about that. But like, it's a no. It's a no from me, dog. Like, I'm not
True.
going.
True. Yeah. Don't ask someone if you're not okay with them saying the other answer.
Yeah. Are you cool if we don't have sex right now? Like, nah, I want to have sex right now. Like, okay, that's fine, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yes.
because I
Yeah.
know that you're a forceful, strong, independent woman
No,
who
no.
is, it's, yeah. And so I think one thing that comes up, at least in my own experience, is sometimes the result of expressing your truth is something that you would prefer to avoid, right? So causing someone to feel sad, causing someone to feel disappointed. But the reality is that you're sort of betraying yourself in that process or prioritizing the feelings of other people over yourself. And that strikes me as something of a self-esteem or self-respect
Mm,
issue.
mm,
Do
mhm.
you have anything to, I was going to say, do you have anything to say about that? Of like, oh, it's Janne Robinson. Like, let's go. I'll make some popcorn. Did anything come up for you?
That's a really that's a really beautiful like question and statement, and it's true because self-abandonment is often very quiet. And it's quiet because we're the only one that knows that we're abandoning ourselves. Like we're the only one that knows that when we say yes, it was actually a no because we want
And you,
people to be mind readers, but they aren't.
and you might be really good at pretending or really good at saying it doesn't matter or hiding the resentment, right? Because it might have been a practice or an entire relationship or your whole life, maybe, where it's not been safe to express your truth. And so sometimes it's difficult to identify where and when that's happening, which is why it's so powerful to have mentors like you or join programs like the one you're doing to actually dive in and see how this stuff really plays out. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, so it's it's a important it's really important to be be loyal to ourselves and not self-abandon the truth that we feel. And here's the other thing, the other side of that
Yeah.
is not just for ourselves, because if we start to say yes 100 times when each time it was a no, the first time could be you're on a date with somebody and you're going, I don't know. But then you say yes to another date, right? And then all of a sudden you're in a relationship and you just keep yesing, yesing, yesing. And all of a sudden you're engaged and you're like, whoa, you feel like some feelings in your body, but you keep yesing. And then it's 5 years later and then you have a kid. And then one of the things is like, then we end up waking up in this life where 100 yeses ago, it was actually a no, and we've have this massive responsibility to unwind the weight of all of those choices, all of those little and not so little choices. Some of them are little, and so I think we have to pay attention to this voice and listening and being loyal to it. And really, the other thing is I would never want to be in a relationship or a marriage with somebody who like wasn't a fuck yes on me, who wasn't like a really clear yes. And that's the thing about sometimes going along, or even I don't even want anyone working with me that doesn't want to work with me. Like if you're genius zone and you're not excited to do project management or be an assistant, like I don't want you on my team. I want you doing exactly what you want to do. Don't work for me. Get out of here. And and so we free people when we tell them no when it's a no. And it can feel like we're going to disappoint them or we're going to hurt them, and oh no, we're going to affect their self-esteem. But the reality is like we're saving them from a whole life or a marriage or a career with somebody that doesn't want to be there, and that would rather have something different. And so there is a cost, not just for ourselves, but for other people that I think it's selfish. I think it's selfish to not be honest and truthful in your life because you create a relationship based on resonance of you're like showing someone who you are. This is me, this is me, this is me. And they're going like, this is you. And I resonate with this. And then the second that you actually start to be who you are, sometimes they go, oh, I don't actually resonate with that. And they've also invested 10 years of their life into building a relationship with this version of you that you watered down and created a relationship. So I'm not saying this to be hard on you, but I want to put this alternative, which is the cost is not just for us when we don't have the courage to honor the no's and the different pieces of truth inside of us. The cost is also for those around us. And I've had conversations with somebody where I didn't honor soon enough that a non-negotiable was a non-negotiable. I'm going to step over that non-negotiable. And then 6 months later, they're really in love with me and I'm really in love with them, but there's a non-negotiable I stepped over. And then I've had that person say to me, why didn't you walk away from me the first time you saw that non-negotiable? And so
Yeah.
that's the cost is that, and it's selfish.
Yeah, a non-negotiable might be, I want to have children and they do not want to have children. And you kick the can down the road until 6 months, a year, 3 years, and it's still there, but everything else
Right.
fits
And
perfectly.
truth can change. You can think like, I want to have kids, and then wake up 6 months later and go, I don't know if I really want to have kids anymore. That can also happen. Truth is a changing environment. So it's not that we're always going to know, but I mean, like, when you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
when you know. I was thinking about how someone might feel disappointed when you express your truth to them, but they won't feel disrespected in a sense, right? So, like, if you're hiding something from someone, you're disrespecting them in a sense, and that people deserve your honesty and they deserve the respect of that honesty. And so, oftentimes, I find I might choose in the past more so to not disappoint someone, but the reality is I'm lying to them because I'm lying to myself, and that's disrespectful. And so I would prefer to disrespect someone rather than disappoint them.
Mm.
And that's not great. And so
Mhm.
this idea essentially is that the truth is an act of self-respect, and in doing so, it's an act of respecting the loved one around you. And then the second point I wanted to make is that I found that it's often really powerful to have this kind of dialogue with people if they're a parent and just frame it as their kid. What would you want your daughter to do in this situation? Is this the image of a person, the example that you want to set for your son to behave in the world? And that can often help us to reframe what's going on in our life outside of ourselves and sort of open our eyes as to what's really happening. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's not
You
great.
you were talking, I have a phrase. Maybe we should call this podcast episode this, which is, I think that honesty is the greatest way to take care of people.
Mm. Yeah. When I first started dating Kendra, I told her the very romantic thing of, I'm going to just treat you like an experiment in radical honesty. Like from moment one, day one of our thing. And she kind of stared at me and, much to her credit, was like, okay, me too. Let's try this, right? We've read about it. The Instagram dorks all talk about this. Let's actually try it. And it's so uncomfortable at the start, but then it becomes more familiar and you become much more tolerant to it. And then what I found is through time, the whole thing switches so that now I'm much more intolerant to dishonesty or when things are off, but we're not talking about it. And it's similar to when I stopped drinking so much or eating such crap food. Now, if I eat some refined sugar or have half a glass of wine, my whole system is messed up. I feel it much more profoundly. And I feel like it's the same with truth is when you hang out with people that tell the truth and are truth tellers and truth doctors, as they say. And then when you experience other relationships or dynamics, it just feels much louder because I'm more sensitive to not having that in my life. Do you feel that too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah, you're like a giant heart antenna too, like Kendra. It's like, no, I don't. I've seen you work with people. I've seen you work with me. It's like your antenna is fine tuned to the little parts that are out of alignment or being dishonest or that's a cute story, my friend. Let's explore that one a little bit.
Yeah. You know what I was just thinking of that just popped into my brain when you were talking is like have you know how hurt it is when somebody has lied to us and we find out that they've lied to us? Like, it's, for somebody maybe who's been cheated on or asked, but I don't know why I'm thinking of that, or you're dating someone, you end up finding out they're on a dating app or something, that betrayal that we feel and how much it hurts. I wish we felt
Mm.
that same thing when we weren't being honest with ourselves. Like I wish we felt that same weight. We so often don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what if we actually felt that same, like, ugh, like when we didn't with ourselves? Like, if we weren't honest, we'd just be like, ugh. I actually got nauseous. Sometimes we do, but
Yeah, picture being at a restaurant and they bring you a Coca-Cola instead of a soda water, and you're like, it's fine, it's fine. But then feeling that sense of deep betrayal, like you've been cheated on. Oh, no, I can't. Right? And I think that's part of why it's tricky is these little acts of deception or dishonesty that we give to ourselves are like a little paper cut, right?
Mhm.
And that metaphor or whatever, death by a thousand paper cuts, and you wake up one day and you're covered in these little scratches. But at the time, it's like, meh, it's not a big deal.
and and I want to like the reason we're afraid to tell the truth is we think our relationships will blow up, people will leave. I also think we're afraid to tell the truth because I think there's a part of us that remembers biologically, like living in little villages when there were saber-toothed tigers. And if you got ostracized from the village because you were weird or you had a different opinion, it meant death. Like there was no surviving without the village. You're in the elements. You're dead. You're gone. And I think
Yeah.
there's a real part of us that, like last night, I went and had ramen with my friend Shannon. We took a Uber, and this Uber driver was driving so freaking fast in my neighborhood. And I, it's a little, I live in Cardiff by the Sea. It's like a little thing. And so he almost like ran a stop sign. And so I said to him, "Hey, can you please slow down?" Like, hi, I value my life. And he got really defensive and he's like, "I've been driving for that." And I was like, "It's too fast. I don't give a fuck what this Uber driver thinks of me. It's my life." And he was driving too fast. And, he got all like, "I'm a, duh." It's like, yeah, well, buddy, that was too fast. You just about ran a. So those are the moments where I'm like, I don't care what that Uber driver thinks. And I wrote the book about this, y'all. My first book is called This Is for the Women Who Don't Give a Fuck. If you are who you are in this world and an Uber driver goes like, "Oh my God, that woman," who gives a fuck what the Uber driver thinks? And if you are who you are in a relationship or a friendship and it blows it up, whew, you saved yourself. You saved
Mm.
yourself from spending any more life force and energy. You know, our relationships, I don't think we think about the investment of life force that a relationship is. Oh my God, it is so much energy. Our core relationships and our 3 to 5 closest relationships, those are jobs, baby. I mean, it is life force. Elizabeth Gilbert is saying that like women who aren't married and have kids are living longer. To do with dynamics and relationships, meaning that women pour more sometimes, not all relationships, but like, and I don't think we think about that. So, like, if you're going to pour your life force, if you're going to shave 3 years of your life off because you're married to somebody, let it be a good investment, and let it be a good investment by telling the truth, radical honesty from day one, every single day. And then if somebody walks, thank God they walked.
Yeah. I think also it's an important caveat or asterisk to suggest that telling the truth radically doesn't give you a permission slip to be a complete asshole or a bitch, right? Like there's a subtle, compassionate way to do that. And your Uber example is a good one of that, of, hey, can you please slow down? Or that's too fast for me. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean your outfit looks like shit or you're a
Right.
bad person. Like I hate you. It's like, hang on a second. Yeah, you're being honest, but you're also just being rude. And then the other point I wanted to
Grace.
make was I have
That's
a
grace.
I have yeah, grace. Yeah,
Big value
compassion.
is grace. Top like 7. Yep.
Yeah. And so for those unaware, I have a baby now. I have an 8-month-old daughter, and I've realized that dishonesty is something that we learn because she is the most honest little creature around. You give her a bite of something and she doesn't like it, her face has no lie. If she doesn't want to be picked up, she cries. If she, we like, we'll meet a friend or someone will come visit and she will just stare at them blankly with no qualms about how it might be perceived. And really love that about her. And it's made me recognize, oh, part of growing up and learning how to fit in and be in the world and be a good member of society and be part of this family system or be part of this culture or community is learning to kind of how to say, like, rub the sharp parts of you down a little bit to fit in. And so there's almost this balance of, yeah, you can't be fully 100% primitive savage baby, uh, but there are ways to navigate the process so that you feel lit up and alive and happy to get out of your bed and on purpose and etc.
And that takes practice too. Like Brene, I think it's Brene Brown who says like sometimes the best that or the only way we can set a boundary is by slamming a door. Like that's our best, you know? And
Yeah,
I have the door slamming moments where genuinely it is my best sometimes. And then there's other moments where I blow myself away with the grace inside of me. So also it's both and it's a
yeah,
constant, even for somebody who teaches communication in the world. I have moments where I'm super avoidant or I don't say the full truth. Like I think that it's an ongoing commitment to being truthful and honest. So as we're speaking about this, like, yeah, I have moments where I'm not honest, where I'm not courageous, where I don't tell the full truth. And my commitment is to continue to come back though. Like if I feel that I haven't told the truth, I will do a redo sometimes, or I'll check in with myself and feel that. Or sometimes I'll just be honest. I'll be avoiding and go like, I'm avoiding. Like, okay, like just call it out. Acceptance is the first emotion we need to change. And like, why am I avoiding? Well, I feel shut down and hurt. So I don't really feel like answering the phone right now and calling because I'm in a shut down and hurt moment. And that's what's true. And that will change. And then I will apologize for being avoidant and show up differently. But in this moment, I'm avoiding, and that's my best. So huge compassion also for, as I'm saying, like, yes, I do bring it. Like I bring it full on, like Janne Robinson style. I have audacity. I did a reading with Erin Claire Jones, she's a human design. She created the human design blueprint, and I love her. I love different ways of understanding. I think astrology and all these different things are just ways of understanding who we are. And I'm a manifestor in human design. And so we're meant to be the like bold, provocative, evocative, like don't ask for permission, just like, boom, this is what it is. Like, I don't hesitate at all. And yeah, and that's beautiful. And I have moments where I do hesitate, but I think that as we're speaking, no one's perfect as well. And it's in a continuous commitment to living honestly and truthfully with ourselves and others. It's not about being perfect. It's about a continuous recommitment and commitment to, I'm going to tell the truth. And if I tell the truth in a personal relationship and it blows it up, I will grieve and feel sad because I may have really loved that person. But I personally have made a commitment that, like, I was raised in a household with two gay moms, and like on the fucking wall was, in this house it is safe to say anything. And so I have made a commitment that I am loyal to, that I will have a business where it is safe to say anything. When I hire somebody, I have had revenue partnerships with people, and the very first conversation I have is, this is a business and we have to make money, like we're a business, but I am going to tell the truth. And sometimes being a poet and a writer who speaks opinions openly and is a coach, that will cause contradiction and people will leave programs and they will get triggered and we're going to lose actual money from that. And I know that. And above all else, I choose to be truthful and honest. And then the money is the second thing. So if you're not on board with that, don't be my partner. And when I choose to go into a relationship with somebody, I also make commitments that I choose a relationship where it is safe to say anything over any one person. So if I say something that is in my heart, and again, yes, with grace, with some of these aspects, and sometimes I'll do a do-over, but if I have communicated how I really feel, and somebody is not okay with that, or they're not okay with a relationship where you communicate in that way, I will not choose them. I will choose my commitment to existing in a life full of a life, career, and relationships where it is safe to say anything, because that's where freedom is. That's where, like, I feel my whole body when I'm honest. It's like when I write something, Jerry, I know you feel this. Sometimes I'm just like, and then I like write something and I'm like, oh, exactly. That's it. That's it. It's there now. And I'm going to share it. People are going to be, but like, it's out of me, and that's exactly what was in there. And so when we let out exactly what is in there, I don't think it can fuck up anything that is true to the bone of our souls.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard perspective to fully integrate. Like it sounds great of, oh, if I'm honest, then I can't screw this up. And they might not be my person, or I might lose that job or that opportunity, but I have to trust that it's working out for a greater purpose because I'm committed to my value of being honest and true. And I just wanted to add, uh, yes, we're talking about this and it's hard and we make mistakes and we're not perfect at it. And one key part of this whole process that I've learned and I'm attempting to get better at is this idea of repairing something. So Kendra's really good at this, and she has a couple of phrases that she uses that I just wanted to drop as like, hey, to those listening, try, here's an example. So she'll come up to me after we've had a little bit of a friction happen, dynamic, a little argument or something, a little conflict. And when it's settled down, maybe the next day or a couple hours later, she'll say something like, hey, I'm sorry about my energy back then. Hey, I have less charge around that now. And I just wanted to like reconnect. And so there's this element of being humble enough to
Yeah.
put out a bid to repair and reconnect and acknowledge and recognize, hey, I did that very inelegantly. And I do that all the time as well with her. This is not like, hey, Kendra makes mistakes and I'm perfect. It's if anything, it's skewed the other direction, right? But so that process I think is really important. And to your point about, you know, honesty being a lifelong endeavor, that you have to continue putting yourself back on the path when you fall off. Uh, I recognize that too. Like, this stuff is hard. It's much easier to lie. It's much easier to open a bottle of wine. It's much easier to scroll your phone. It's much easier to just play pretend, swallow it down, and survive another day, or
Yep.
promise yourself you'll do it tomorrow, and you know you won't. Like, that's easier for sure. I get it. And as a lazy person, I am drawn to that opportunity for sure. But then there's something deeper inside that continually whispers. And if it doesn't whisper, it starts shouting and it makes you sick. It makes you hate yourself and it makes you do all kinds of things. So that's
And it's,
my little mini TED talk.
yeah,
How did I do? Is that all
no,
right?
and it's
Okay.
like procrastination too. It's like there's a I love everything you're just saying. All of those pieces were so good. And yeah, I liked your TED talk. Now it's your turn.
Thanks, good.
I like that
Thanks,
you
everybody.
that's I was thinking David White, I believe, says that the Latin um definition of the word humility is to be thrown into the ground.
Whew.
And yeah, humility is, I actually think that's one of the most important parts of leadership and relationship is I say I'm wrong and I'm sorry all the time. I said I was wrong and I was sorry this morning to somebody on my team because I forgot that it was her birthday last week. And I don't know what it is with like American holidays. I'm not like a patriotic person. Even with Canada, I'm not into, but it's Memorial Day here. And we're in the middle of a lunch. And she had told me about some time off that I forgot about because we're busy. And I had gotten like huffy about it and had like a little moment of like, well, I need you. And you're the launch manager. But it was her birthday weekend that she told me about. But in my little stress moment yesterday, I reacted and felt disappointed. And then today I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I totally forgot. I thought you just wanted to roast a hot dog. Your whole family's there. It's a birthday weekend. Of course you're going to be off this weekend. And like I'm so sorry. And so also I don't think you're right. I don't think part of relationship is grace, part of relationship is humility. And as we're talking about truth and honesty, those are equally important parts, because part of the truth of relationship is that, yeah, we're going to mess up and make mistakes and all of those pieces. So yeah, I like what you're saying, and it is important. And I do think for some of us, I like to be really extreme and strong and like tell the truth and like, because I think we need that activation because we're so on the opposite spectrum. But then I have seen also the other side of like, yes, then you need, once you figure out like, yes, you can slam the door, but what does having the power and the confidence that you're going to honor who you are and setting a boundary, knowing that you're not going to abandon yourself from a place of grace and humility look like? Which is like,
Mm.
hey, like a truth for me is I'm not comfortable with like drinking and driving since I was like 14. Remember those dare shirts? Like, like that really hit for me. And I was in a car once when I was younger, and I realized they were drunk. And I think I actually got out of the car in like minus 30 degrees Celsius and called my mom. And so, like, something that I'm confident with is like somebody else might feel like they're okay to drive, but I know that I'm not. And so I get to be like loyal to those pieces. And I don't need to change somebody, but I do need to know that that's my boundary and my hard line. And
Mm.
so I feel like I segued a little bit, but just there's humility, there's grace, there's do-overs. I think it's just listening in. This whole conversation and piece is, if you listen in to the truth inside, it is a key. Like, you're hearing all of these different conversations and moments of, it's a key to more connection. Um, Sex problems are usually communication problems. And for communication to happen, real communication, you have to be honest. Communication not from honesty, not going to fix anything. Just words, just empty, vacant words. Communication from honesty, yeah, that has the ability to change your relationship in your life.
Yeah. Communication from a place of dishonesty is manipulation, right? You're trying to manipulate a situation or a
Or,
scenario or a person
or insecurity. Could be insecurity.
or
No,
insecurity. Yeah.
I'm insecure, so I'm not going to be honest. But yeah, but yes.
Okay, Janne Robinson, we got to wrap this up. That was my hard transition because we're rambling, and I know you've got stuff to do, and I know I've got stuff to do. But to those listening, you've got your program launching soon. I've put a link in the show notes. They can click that. They can sign up. They'll get 10 hours of you full Janne Robinson mode teaching about truth, doing 4 hours of live one-on-one coaching so they could potentially chat with you live in real time. And you have an Instagram, you have a website, you do corporate gigs, you do keynote talks, you have books. Anything else I need to highlight?
So many things. No, I think just like come hang out. If you're listening to this, I mean, if it's past June 2nd to 12th and you're listening to this, like, yeah, I also work with people one-on-one, and I have an Instagram where I say all kinds of things, and you never really know what you're going to get. Don't really know what my brand is still after 12 years. My brand is Janne Robinson, and Janne Robinson is always changing. My books don't change, so they could read my book. But yeah, if you're listening to this before June 2nd to 12th, and even actually during that time, because you could still join us, come meet yourself in truth. Meeting myself in truth has been one of the most powerful things in changing and liberating my life. But also, I have now worked with over 8,000 people have been through Meet Yourself in Truth, this free 10-day experience. And I've had 1,000 people in a year-long program called Your Truth is Your Medicine. And this little free taste is a really good example for you to get a feel for who I am and what I believe, and to like just come into the Janne Robinson world. And we're all a different flavor of gelato. And Jeremy's also an incredible coach and a teacher. And like, we're all different flavors. So if you liked parts of this conversation or energy, would love to have you there. And just want to encourage everybody just to continue to like keep telling the truth, like just keep in a world that doesn't always encourage that. I just really want to encourage you, even if you don't come to the 10-day event, to go tell the truth somewhere in your life today and see what happens. Because my experience is it has the incredible transformative ability to change everything.
Amen. You're the best. I love you.
Love you so
Thanks for
much.
being you.
Tell my room I say hey.
Oh, God. Okay. As promised, that was awesome, right? And also, as discussed, Yana's free, amazing online program, Meet Yourself in Truth, is kicking off on June the 2nd. It's free. It's amazing. There's going to be so much content. 6 live 2-hour sessions with 4 hours of live coaching with her. Like, come on. You just listen to her for an hour. She is fire. I love her. I adore her. I respect her. I trust her. It's a good offer. I've put a link in the show notes. So there's a link down in the information describing this episode that we just had. You just have to click it, fill out the information, and you'll be in the program. And you get to learn so much and get to hang out with Yana. She's so fun, right? Her energy is infectious and she knows her stuff. She will help you get to where you want to go and discover the truth about who you are and what you want. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. So if you're still listening to me ramble about this, just shut me off, go click that link, get in there. And as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate you listening. I can't wait to talk into your ear bones once again soon. And until that time, please help make the world a little more kind and a little more compassionate. And that starts with yourself. So love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. Talk soon.